If you had the power to delete one thing from this world, as if it never existed or ceased to exist, what would it be? This. I got diagnosed with severe IBS and a malabsorption issue a year ago, and it has consumed my life and changed it. I'm so sick and tired of literally being sick and tired. It's painful. My brother has Crohn's disease and I hate watching him suffer as well. He got diagnosed at 8 and has been such a sick kid with hospitalizations and such. He's almost 20 now and luckily lives a pretty normal adult life now. But the illness still controls his life in some aspects. Intestinal problems are no joke. Exactly. It's like Steve Hofstetter said, most people who don't want kids realize that they don't have the time, or the money, or the love it takes to raise a child. Then you have so many ignorant fucks that are responsible for overpopulation saying that goes there and boom, baby. I'm probably not going to have kids because I don't really have the patience for them, and that's okay, but if people would stop and think before putting things where they honestly shouldn't go, this world would be a lot better to live in. Edit. Thanks for the gold. Whoever sent that, you're awesome. I am a young person, who forget things too much. One of my greatest fear is dying alone. The other is that my tendency of forgetting things will develop into dementia, and I won't be able to remember my precious memories. Who are we without our memories? We are all forgetful sometimes. Don't worry, dear, memory stays good if you stay alert. I work puzzles, read things, look up things. Some people just naturally have better memory than others. My 5-year-old grandson can name all the presidents and tell you something about them. My mother could say her ABCs backwards, count backwards from 100. We all have talents, discoverers. My gran has dementia and is now in a home, but for 6 years the hardest part wasn't seeing her fall apart. It kills you quicker as well as all the other side effects. No number. The hardest part is on those that have to look after the one with dementia. It tore my parents apart. More bickering and fighting and stress and frustration in their 60s. We retired. For this shit, I genuinely started to worry they'd get a divorce. Now she's gone and I can see the joy and light back with them again. But it may have had irreversible repercussions. One could argue it highlighted their issues that were always there but still, and nobody else offers to help because they say they care but they don't. Everyone just wants peace and quiet and an easy life. Resentment kicked in like a hand grenade across the whole family. Yep, my grandpa had it and my mom, who had just retired, took care of her for 3 octoseconds before she couldn't do it anymore, and my grandma moved to a nursing home. My aunt and uncle did pretty much fuck all, maybe called once a month maybe, none of the heavy lifting, literally or figuratively. Fast forward 3 octoseconds. I started to notice my mom mixing up her words and writing herself notes that look like nonsense after she'd been sharp as a tack for 65 years. I take care of her, living with her, unpaid, 24/7, and my 2 sisters who live in the same city just can't bother to lift a finger, unless it's to criticize her care or comb through my mom's bank records looking for where I'm stealing from her. Obviously I wasn't. That destroyed our relationship when we'd previously all been super close. We'd all 3 at one point even moved out of our mom's house into another house together. I mean, we were close, but now it's hard for me to not feel massively resentful and still furious for how unnecessarily hard they made that whole experience for me. So yeah, the family destruction is a casualty itself that a lot of times isn't talked about. Last spring, I started waking up with red spots all over my body. Every day that I woke up, there would be more. I started to panic, research what the hell could be biting me, and I was certain it was bed bugs. I was so itchy that I couldn't do anything but sit and stare at the floor because it took everything not to scratch myself. I put bed bug dust under my bed, and I took the socket plates off the walls and put more bed bug dust in that too. I stripped my mattress, treated it with bed bug foam mattress spray 3 times, put a mattress protector specifically for bed bugs, washed all of my sheets 3 times, and then I struggled to sleep, which I couldn't from the constant, itching paranoia. The next morning, I woke up with more bites. I had more than 100 red marks on my abdomen, chest, collarbones, and inside of my arms and thighs. I decided it was finally time to go to the doctor to get some sort of relief. These aren't bed bug bites. I stopped and looked at him like he had grown a second head. Are you kidding me? He confirmed that they weren't, and that he believed that I had a skin condition known as pityriasis rosacea. In my case, he thought that it was from stress. I'm a pre-med college student, and I was in the middle of midterms. I had just gotten hired at a new job. My car was totaled from a hailstorm, and every night I went to bed I was more and more stressed because I thought bed bugs were ravaging me as I slept. As it turns out, the red marks were only spreading because I was so stressed about the bed bugs. As soon as he diagnosed me, the red marks stopped spreading. Eventually, I researched the condition to the point where I found that going to a tanning salon would help the marks go away faster. Point of the story: bedbugs suck and the human brain is insanely powerful. It's supposed to take 6-8 weeks or even longer, but after a lot of research I found out that UV light helps the spots go away a lot faster. I miraculously found a coupon for a week free at a local tanning salon, so I went every day for a week for about 10 minutes each session, and it went away in 2-3-ish weeks. The UV has to take time to set into the skin. I don't recommend doing any more than they ask you to do. They didn't recommend any more than 15 minutes, because skin cancer is indeed a thing. Skin cancer is indeed a thing. I too have had a skin condition that massively improved with UV, but I found high-dose vitamin D to be effective too. It might be worth trying the Vit D first, which is pretty cheap and widely available, because sometimes the reason UV works is because it promotes Vit D production in the skin. Keep fighting the good fight. Any new developments potentially on the horizon? I always read an article here and there about a new more effective eradication method, but never sure if they end up amounting to anything. Honestly, I feel like trauma is a strong word, but I had bedbugs almost a decade ago now, and I still have what is basically a trauma response whenever I feel even the smallest possible itch in bed. It's just a normal random itch, or a stray piece of hair, but I'm still paranoid about finding bugs in my bedroom, and I have to reassure myself that there aren't any. That little speck on my bed sheets is just lint. I've had lice before, too, and bedbugs are infinitely worse. I wouldn't wish them on anyone. Man, I went through this too. I had them in my shitty apartment in NY. Luckily I only had to live with them for a month before moving, and all of my belongings were put in storage for over 8 months, which successfully eradicated them. Last month I was staying at an Airbnb. I sat on the couch, got bit, and I immediately knew what it was. I nearly had a mental breakdown. It may seem like a bad thing, but I am extremely allergic to them. I'm talking orange-sized welts on my body. This means if I get bit, I know immediately it is bed bugs. Luckily I was able to get photos of the welts and a good photo of one of those little fuckers. Despite the photo evidence, Airbnb were still an absolute garbage company to deal with and were trying to give me only a partial refund. But after a week of being told they were looking into the issue, they finally refunded the full amount. Lost my dad a couple years back. You will be okay for a while, and then you won't be, and that is okay. Except those times where you're not okay. That's part of grief, and it may never go away. My partner still has dreams about her mother basically every day. It's hard, but it will inevitably happen to everyone around you at some point. Best we can do is love those we love while we can. 3. It does get easier over time, but it never goes away fully. Hope you have a good support network, my friend. And if you don't, please talk to your GP about grief counseling. Most places offer free grief counseling after a family member's death if it's signed off by a GP, or they can at least link you to some community resources. Depression. I've been majorly affected by it and seen what it can do to others who lose their battle. No one should have to feel that alone and shitty. Edit. The amount of people who relate to this. Thank you to everyone who has commented, shared their story or offered support. You are all amazing. Anxiety is a nightmare. Totally this. I thought the lowest point of my life was the depression era, only to come out of it and swing all the way to the other end and find panic attacks and no sleep. For someone who has courted suicidal thoughts on every depressing day for years, it was the first time I would have actually done it, and not in a good way. When you're losing your own sanity and watching it all go down, it's a surreal feeling, and you would do anything to stop it, before you can't hold yourself together to do even that. When you're losing your own sanity and watching it go down, I spent 2 years getting consumed by my mental health, fully conscious of every situation I was going through, felt like one of those guys on the Titanic knowing it's going down, but nothing to do. Like you, I split my life into pre-depression, depression, life after depression, only to realize I didn't have life years. Depressed me and fully functioning me are the same person at the same time. I owe my life to clonidine, a blood pressure medication used off-label for anxiety and for people doing drug withdrawals, safe for long-term dosages, and mainly just decreases your body's flight or fight response equivalent to your anxiety. Brain tumors. I've had one and we didn't find out until I were like 11 or 12, and having a brain tumor is like straight up worse than hell. It slowly ate my brain to become bigger, and the way we saw something was wrong was during a lesson in school when I felt super bad for what I thought was no reason. I quickly raised from my chair, ran to the door, opened the door, fell and vomited on the ground, and the teachers called my dad. He picked me up. It didn't get better when I took medicine and stuff, so I forced him to take me to the hospital, and they gave me medicine that still didn't work, so we drove to the hospital again, and they did an body x-ray to know what was wrong, and they didn't find anything, but it kept getting worse, so my dad called again, and then we did full body x-ray and they found something weird in the head, so I did an head x-ray and they saw that there was something wrong at the brain, and they did an brain x-ray and found a 6.5 centimeter long brain tumor, large to be a brain tumor, and then they got kinda stressed and contacted a surgeon right away and took to emergency operation room and operated me. I have 2 pictures on my Reddit of when I were there. I still have it hard, but it's getting better and better for every day. Theft. Because as Khaled Hosseini said in The Kite Runner, there is only one sin, only one, and that is theft. Every other sin is a variation of theft. When you kill a man, you steal a life. You steal his wife's right to a husband, rob his children of a father. When you tell a lie, you steal someone's right to the truth. When you cheat, you steal the right to fairness. Absolutely. I've often wondered how much better the world would be without rape. I'm a victim and it has affected every single thing about my life. As much as I have tried to not let it, even my amazing husband is affected by my rape. Good, decent men, who would never rape. Don't think for a minute that rape doesn't affect you. BC, when women are being raped, and then you marry a victim, it will affect you too. I have PTSD where sometimes when my husband touches me, I cringe away. I actually hate to be even casually touched now. Rape of women affects good men's futures too. And we all should be extremely pissed off that women have been traumatized in this way. And also for the men who have been raped. This problem does not get enough spotlight, but as a female survivor, I understand the trauma that you have been through. It's so traumatizing, but it's maybe even more stigmatized for male survivors. I'm so sorry for all. Every single one of us should be extremely angry at rape. Thanks for thinking about us. I'm a man, also a victim of this kind of thing. And it messed up my brain for some years, especially since it was a dude doing oral on me. So I got a moment of asking myself if it was really a rape. I had to go through all of this alone. Nobody supported me or just was nice with me. More than 10 years after I finally made a complaint, the thing where I'll get called if there's another victim, and damn it was hard. Now these things are part of my past, happily, but yeah, I had a hard time accepting it's a rape because I felt it wasn't violent or horrible enough. I wish you to be able to go over it and to be happy, really, wish you the best. I was probably drugged at a bar. I have a lot of missing reels from that night. We had an unprotected encounter at their place. Nothing has showed up on STD panels since then. Friends said what's their number, so I only talk about it on Reddit. One doctor scolded me for not using a condom. The second doctor only talked about the blood panel. No real lasting harm. I guess, learned a lot. Excuse me, but I think you are not giving yourself enough room in the conversation. You are talking about your experience here. You are telling us you were harmed. You are telling us that you were ignored and not taken seriously. I would call that really harmful, although ignored and minimized. That is the kind of hurt that lasts. I would like to encourage you to take yourself and this experience, and all the feelings you feel surrounding it, seriously. You deserve to be taken seriously, and if you ask me, it does start with no longer listening or repeating those minimizing, blaming yourself statements. Your pain is real. I believe you. I relate to your inner thoughts so much. When I was raped, we had been making out, and I wanted that, but when I said I didn't want to go any further and have sex, he did it anyway. But it was my fault because we had been doing something I wanted. 25 years later and I still feel guilty. Gender or looks are absolutely not factors in being a victim. And nor are clothes. There are still so many myths about what victims were wearing when they were assaulted. That is victim blaming. A rapist will rape a victim wearing a burqa or wearing a bikini. It is their fault, not the fault of what the person was wearing. Dementia. My mom passed a few weeks ago at the age of 57 to this. She only had one good day in the last 2 weeks she was alive. She told me she wanted a picture of me and my sisters cause she was afraid she wouldn't remember. It hurt me deeply seeing her that way, with her not knowing who I was or where she was at. I just wish I told her that I loved her more than I did. So if anybody reads this, please spend time with your parents and tell them you love them. I delete bloody saucers, useless fragile discs always dropping and breaking, and for what? To have a cup over them? Just delete that. Edit. I see that some of you might have something to say about this. It is completely fine for you lads to manifest your objections and counter-arguments. Mostly you'll have a point and certainly you'll be right, but please keep in mind you would never be aware of the deletion and, consequently, would never miss those pretentious discs that would be better proper to shoot at. I would specifically delete all the evolutionary baggage in humans that actively hinders and limits modern society. Now that may be rather vague, but just imagine the world without rape, overwhelming greed, hoarding of resources, tribalism, prejudice, runaway pride, and all the things that were once useful for the survival of the species but now drag us down. All the problems in the world are very solvable, at least for now, but we're just problematic bipedal primates with too much baggage. I agree. Think how much death from wars, think of all the hate, fear and persecution from any religion out there, all because they don't have the same religion as someone else. In my opinion, you can believe whatever you want to, just don't push your beliefs on someone else. Let them make up their own mind. That's true freedom, and if they need help or advice, help them, advise them. That's the human thing to do. We'd probably develop a system of fates worse than death to threaten others, like physical and psychological torture. But I guess that in some hundreds of years our race would evolve to become insensible to all kind of stimulus, and then we'll try to put ourselves to sleep forever, like eventually he stopped thinking. Human suffering of all forms should cover many things such as war, hunger, rape, crimes of most variety, poverty, bullshit pay, shit work environments, unemployment, vermin of all kinds, mosquitoes and whatnot, thirst, poorer countries with little to no fresh water, diseases, plagues, probably depression and other mental disorders, etc. This is way more broad than I initially thought. All the top comments refer to things that mostly only consider humans, and therein lies the problem of humans, that the vast majority of us, even during a mass extinction and global climate crisis, are completely anthropocentric in our mentality. We still haven't even figured out how to think about things in a way that doesn't ignore and trash the web of life in which we're just a piece of.